Hola, ¿cómo están? I hope you're ready to finish the semester. We're in the finish line. You're a wonderful group. I really enjoy teaching your class. And we only have a couple more activities and we're done with Español 2. Yay. So this is going to be a short, whatever, review for final exam. I'm going to go over some of the lección 10 estructuras, which I didn't go over last week, but because the final exam is not comprehensive, it's only lecciones 9 y 10, I thought that it would be a good idea to just go over the study guide and include de estructuras from las lecciones 9 y 10, but mainly lección 10, which I didn't go over those yet. And I have some documents that I'm gonna show to you and share with you as well, okay? And a couple of things before we started. You are a pro with HonorLog. You've been using HonorLog and my courses and Portales for a while, but I just like to remind a couple of things. First of all, don't forget to complete the SSI. SSI, let me share, just so you know, if you go to your course, you're gonna see your SSI right here. It is very important you complete it because if everybody actively participating in the class completes it, everybody can get 3 points added to the final exam if you take the final exam. Right now, let me go over that right here. 57% of the students have submitted. So I believe we have 20 students actively participating. So we still need 8 students to complete that SSI. So please do that as soon as possible. Couple more things. When we go to the folder of Examen Final, I want to repeat this, but you know the whole drill, that you must complete the practice exam from lecciones 9 y 10. In my courses, you can complete it as many times as you wish, but you have to get at least 60%. That's the only way that your Examen Final will open, okay? So keep that in mind. Do not forget, ever forget, if you don't add your accents, okay? You don't get points taken for not adding accents. A couple of things to remember for final exam. Remember to have your webcam. Make sure to show your entire room, have your ID ready. And again, don't worry if you don't have the accents. You can have 2 pieces of papers, very important that you know that you can like write your conjugation, it has to be blank. No notes, no books, no browser. You won't be able to open any other browser. Have your phone and your iPad, whatever, away from you. Very important, so you don't get flagged, okay? And after the final exam, the only thing you have is the project. I'm going to go over that a little bit after this review, okay? Now, how do we start? I'm going to go back to sharing. How do we start for the final exam? This is a couple of things. First of all, you always can go to Vista Higher Learning. I released it. So you should be able to access your lecciones 9 y 10, your exam in Portales to practice, okay? We do have here a study guide and an answer key. As I always mention, very important, don't open your answer key and just read through it. That's not how you study. You complete it. I'm not going to complete the study guide. I'm just going to go over it. And then you compare with the answer key. Here you have your both lesson practice exams, which you're going to open it from the submission review quizzes. You know how to do that. And that's about it, okay? If you need a reminder of how to open your HonorLog, here there's a little bit of guidelines, but I'm sure you're very comfortable and you're already used the extension for Chrome. You must be using Google, Chrome, of course. And anyway, so let's start with, let's download it. I already downloaded it right here. And as I mentioned before, I have some documents to share with you. How do you study for this? I added a little bit of a vocabulary questions and answer from Lección 9 y 10, and see if you can answer them. You might have something similar. You might have in the test some pictures to match with sentences, but in this case, you have to associate both columns related to vocabulario de las celebraciones y la visita al consultorio médico. Okay, so that will really help you to practice the vocab. Okay, here we are with estructuras. The first paragraph, it has to do with pretérito. As I mentioned to you before, we cover pretérito in lecciones 6, 7, 8, and 9. Lección 6 is regulares. Lección 7 presents some pretéritos. Lección 8 y 9, mainly 9. Here, what you have is lección 9, the very irregular ones. So I will send you this document, which I sent before, where you have pretérito regular from lección 9. Some of the irregulares from lección 7, como ser, ir. This is presented in lección 6, and as well as ver, which are very similar, be, etc. This is presented in lección 8, and no, I'm sorry, it's part of lección 6. Some of the spelling mistakes in the yo form, and then verbs like leer or oír. This is what is presented in lección 8, lección 8. But this is what I really, I went over that, but this is pretérito irregular. So you will have activities with that. And I did a little bit of document, a little cheat sheet for you. Let me find it. Here it is. So here we have the irregulars of lección 9. So we have the ending of all the irregulares in lección 9, the ending is the same, is iste, o, imos, ieron, o eron. So eron is for the h, the verbs that they have the jota. And then ieron is for the u or the i. So there are 3 different groups, okay? In the uv, we have estar, tener, poder, poner, haber, y saber, okay? So we have estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvieron, etc., etc. Haber is only one, hubo, which is there was, there were, that's it. There was and there were, no más, which is in presentes I. The verbos como y, con y, como venir, querer, hacer, como vine, viniste, vino, vinimos, vinieron. And then the verbs with jota, decir, traer, conducir, traducir. So we have dije, dijiste, dijo, dijimos, dijeron, okay? So here we have some activities. So this is kind of like a cheat sheet, which is very good to memorize and practice with that. So we have a verb like yo. So let's say hacer is part of this group, okay? So it's y, and this is your ending, no accent. So it's yo, hice. Another one. This is a reflexive verb. So let's not forget the reflexive pronouns. So the two is te. So the verbos es ponerse, poner o ponerse. So it's the two forms. So it's pudiste. Oh, I'm sorry, poner, no poder. Poner, so es te pusiste. Okay, another one. Ellos, decir. Decir is with jota, but it's the ellos form. So it's dijeron. Remember that with the jota, it's not dijeron, but dijeron. Querer, ella. Querer is one of the E. So it's quiso. So ella quiso. Okay. Nosotros, traer. Traer es nosotros. So es trajimos. And Juan, hacer. So hacer Remember that in the L o ella form o usted, instead of the C, we have to change it to ISO with zeta. So this is a very good practice for you to have, okay? And I will send it to everyone. So this is an activity right here where you, in context, you have to use the pretérito. So for example, el sábado pasado yo estar in the yo form. So is yo estar is here, estuve, etc., etc. So I don't want to complete it for you, but this is just a really good paragraph to complete with pretérito. Okay? Now we go to pretérito imperfecto. Pretérito imperfecto is presented in lección 10, very, very important. Now, this is one of the complexest things in Spanish because in English, we don't have, there's not two past tense such as this, pretérito imperfecto. So, pretérito, as I mentioned, is present in lecciones 6, 7, 8, y 9. Imperfecto is presented in lección 10. It is a simple, it's not as complex. That's why it's presented by itself in, let me open the grammar study guides. The conjugation is very simple. It's not complex. And there's only 3 irregulars, okay? So there's only, well, the only thing you have to remember that this AR is the same and ER and IR is the same. So it's cantaba, cantabas, cantaba, cantábamos, cantabas, cantaban, bebía, bebías, bebía, bebíamos, bebías, bebían. The same as ER and IR. Escribía, escribías, escribía, escribíamos, escribías, escribían. Now, when do we use it? We use it mainly, and 3 irregulares. Ir is iba, etcétera, etcétera. Ser es era, muy importante. Y ver es veía. Now, keep in mind that always the yo and the él, so first and third person singular is the same. Aba, cantaba, okay? Some very important expressions for imperfecto. De niño, o cuando era niña, o todos los días. So when you talk about an action, a habit in the past, I used to do, or an action in progress. That's why with the expression mientras is while, an action in progress, okay? However, the pretérito, it's what we remember that expressions, el año pasado, el semestre pasado, ayer, en 1950. So it's your past simple, a complete action, okay? So here are some uses of imperfecto. Habits, habitual actions. Íbamos al parque los domingos. Siempre, always. Eventos or actions that are in progress. Yo leía mientras estudiaba, which for you would be like I was doing something. It's not I did, but I was doing something. Physical characteristics, so any descriptions in the past. Cuando yo era niña, yo era muy alta, muy simpática, delgada, etc., etc. Any emotional state in the past, okay? Yo quería mucho a mi familia, which is not an action. Pretérito is mainly an action that is complete. Time telling in the past that has to do with kind of like the setup of a story. Eran las 3:30 de la mañana, yo estaba muy cansada, etc., etc. And the age has to do with your description. Cuando yo tenía 5 años, blah, 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 okay? So that is your imperfecto. However, the important thing is what's the difference between pretérito and imperfecto? This is a very complex thing. So what you are required to know is can identify when to use pretérito and imperfecto. And I'm going to give you an example how it's going to be presented in the final, because in Spanish too, it is very hard to really know when to use this. Just it's very important, such as like in Spanish 1, when to use ser o estar, es muy confuso y difícil, okay? So at this stage, what we want you is to be able to know, to identify when to use it. And there are some hints, okay? So, imperfecto, as I mentioned before, any kind of description, física o personalidad. Yo era muy alta, yo era muy simpática. La edad, which is age. Cuando yo tenía 15 años, el clima, weather, that has to do with description. Hacía mucho frío, estaba nublado. La hora, era las 2 de la tarde. La fecha, the date, era el lunes 10 de agosto. Any kind of background event to start a story. Había una vez una niña que vivía en, so that is like once upon a time, there was a girl. So that's not an action. It's kind of a description, the background of the story. Una acción habitual, something you used to do. Cuando era niña, yo jugaba mucho con mis amigos. Generalmente pasaba mucho tiempo en la playa. It's not a specific time, but it's a habit in the past. Una acción en progreso, as I mentioned before. In English would be I was doing something. So estaba trabajando, I was working, cuando llegó mi esposo. Now we have both. We have the action in progress, which is imperfecto, and llegó mi esposo, that's your pretérito, because he arrived in a specific time. And two simultaneous actions. Mi amiga estudiaba mientras yo leía un libro. Mientras, remember, that is while. So those two actions are in progress. So some actions, frequent phrases in imperfecto or hints. A menudo, these are some of the adverbs that you learn in lección 10. A menudo, con frecuencia, frecuentemente, cada día, cada mes, cada año, cada semana, a veces, de vez en cuando, muchas veces, siempre, todos los días, todos los lunes, todos los años, in the past, en el pasado, mientras, which is while. Pretérito, we cover that a lot. Mainly is una acción terminada, an action that is over, done. Anoche limpié toda mi casa. Secuencia de acciones terminadas que avanzan la historia. So any action that is complete but advance the story. Hubo un accidente. There was an accident. Vino la ambulancia. Los heridos fueron al hospital. Heridos is the injured. Fueron al hospital. So these are actions all complete. And then an interruption. Estaba trabajando cuando llegó mi esposo. As you see, llegó is the interruption of my action in progress. And some hints for the pretérito. Anoche, la noche pasada, ayer, anteayer, la semana pasada, el mes pasado, el año pasado, hace 2 meses, hace 2 años, hace 3 semanas, de repente, suddenly, de pronto. So I'm going to send this so you will have them to study and practice. So in your study guide, you're going to see that something similar that you will have in your final, where you will not have to write the pretérito imperfecto, but you will have to choose the one. So for example, here, Clara, la tele en su casa, cuando su hermano la por teléfono. So we have here 2 actions. One is in progress, one is an interruption. Okay, so I don't want to complete it. I want you to think about it and then check your answer key. Adverbs. There are some adverbs presented in lección 10. Okay, and adverbs, if you don't know what it is, it modifies an action, okay, or an adjective. So some of the common ones, you learn bien, mal, muy, nunca, hoy, siempre, temprano, ayer, aquí. You learned those already. But here we learn some new ones, which is like the ones that finish with mente, which in English is the one, very similar, is finished with ly, li. So fácilmente, generalmente, verdaderamente, simplemente. How do we form this? We have your adjective, then we change it to the feminine form, and then we add mente. As simple as that, okay? So if I have the adjective, básico, basic, what would be your adverb? Would be básicamente. Make sense? Anyway, and here is a list of them. A menudo, a tiempo, a veces, además, apenas, así, bastante, casi, con frecuencia, de vez en cuando, despacio, menos, muchas veces, poco pronto, por lo menos, y rápido. So these are very important. And this is just an activity with adverbs from an adjective. So from alegre would be alegremente. Tranquilo would be tranquilamente. Okay? So we have an activity here where you have to complete it with the adverb. So we have a dialogue between Señor Román y el doctor. So here you have your adjective and you have to complete it and transfer it, convert it into an adverb. So in here will be doctor, estoy fabulosamente bien, etc., etc. Okay? Okay, let's keep going. We have preguntas, questions and answers. These are important test questions. So out of the 9, I believe 7 or 8 are in your final exam, okay? Keep in mind that you have questions in pretérito, en presente, and imperfecto. So if the question is in imperfecto, like here, ¿dónde vivías cuando era niño? The answer should be en imperfecto. Yo vivía en Argentina. If the question is in present, like this one, ¿te duele la cabeza a menudo? That's present. You answer in present. Sí me duele la cabeza, no me duele la cabeza. Remember to use a complete sentence, which is a verb. If the question is in pretérito, like this one, ¿a dónde fuiste el fin de semana pasado? I need to answer with pretérito. Yo fui a la playa, yo fui a un restaurante, etc., etc. Okay? Here we have a reading comprehension. Reading comprehension, there's not much to study, it's just a practice. So you will have a reading comprehension. And here is a practice and has to do with celebraciones, un aniversario y un bautizo, okay? I believe in the final exam is true or false or matching, I don't remember. This is another short paragraph, okay, and questions. So you have 2 different reading comprehension. One has to do with celebraciones, and one has to do with la salud dental, so it has to do with lección 10. Finally, okay, in the midterm, you have to write a composition in pretérito. In your final, you will have to write a composition using vocabulary and structures learned in lessons 9 and 10. And this will be your final exam composition that you cannot bring it with you, but you can practice and memorizing, and that's it. So we have mi niñez o adolescencia, write a paragraph about your childhood and or adolescence. Use the imperfecto and at least 3 adverbs, like frecuentemente, muy bien, simplemente, whatever you want. And these are questions that will guide you to write your composition. So, ¿dónde vivías? ¿Cómo eras? ¿A qué escuela asistías? Everything is in imperfecto. And that's it. I think I went through everything that I wanted to mention. So the only thing, I wanted to mention, sorry, is go very quickly over the project, which is already open, available, and you have until Wednesday. Here is the project, it's a video de mi biografía. And here in the video de mi biografía, you will have to do a video like you did in Spanish 1 online, where you write, you speak, you don't have to write anything, but these are questions that will guide you through your video. You don't have to choose all these topics, but you need to include, as it said here, it's a 2 to 3 minutes. You cannot read everything, but you can have an index guide to guide you through the video. Pronunciation is very, very important, okay? And make sure to use past tense, pretérito, and imperfecto, but of course you can include the present tense as well, okay? And here are some things that will guide you to talk about your niñez y en adolescencia, estudio y trabajo, tu vida personal, vacaciones, celebraciones. Keep in mind that this is a video for Spanish too. So it's not about, hola, me llamo Roxana, vivo en Palm Harbor, tengo 56 años, me gusta ir a la playa. That is okay, but that's Spanish 1. So we need to go forward and talk about, where were you born, donde naciste, blah, 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 okay? And so keep in mind all this information. And it is very, very important that you use what we learn. You can use what we learn in Spanish 1, but also in Spanish 2. Here there's a rubric, and you have until next Wednesday to complete that. I will have all your grades done before Friday, so you will have everything before final, okay? And then you have only the final and the project, okay? Let me know if you have any questions, and I wish everybody the best in the final exam. Adios.